Good evening and welcome to the second part of learning the Sicha of the Rebbe. He spoke by the Hanocha 7 Apina and he placed the cornerstone of the expansion of 770 on Yud Zayin Elul Tafshin Mem Ches 17 Elul 5748. Okay, just want to turn off the waiting room. I don't know how that happened. Welcome. Not sure how to turn off the waiting room at this point. Okay, let's get right into it. So just to recap what we were learning in the beginning of this Sicha, this is the Sicha that the Rebbe spoke by the groundbreaking of the expansion of 770. And if you'd like to follow along in the text, you can go to expand770.com and go to the tab called Resources. In Resources, go to Expansion in the Books. And over there, you'll see a link to the groundbreaking Sicha of 17 Elul 5748. Last week, we learned the first two ICS of this Sicha. It's a short Sicha. There are only 4 ICS. But just to run through it quickly, in the first ICE, the Rebbe spoke about the minhag of the custom of the groundbreaking, and the Rebbe is learning from that really this is the way the world started, that Hashem made a groundbreaking and put a cornerstone to the whole world, which is the Even Shasiya that's in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And the Rebbe therefore says that we have to also learn from this, that whenever a Yid is starting a project, starting to build something, whether it's physically or spiritually, it needs to, the foundation, the cornerstone of whatever you're building needs to be based on the Holy of Holies, not just based on holiness, but the Kodesh HaKadoshim, just like Hashem started the world with the Even Shasiya, which is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And then the Rebbe said, as well as the fact that we start off by groundbreaking, by breaking the ground, which represents the idea of breaking our ego. In order to start a project, and in order to do it in the right way, we need to do it by starting off with breaking our own ego and realizing that the only power we have to build anything is the power that Hashem gave us. And yes, Hashem gave us the power in a way that it feels like it's our own abilities, our own talents and power, but we must realize that it's only that it's God-given, that it's only the only way we have this power is through Hashem. And then Hashem becomes the partner of this project, and then we are able to accomplish the project that we're trying to do. In the second ois, the Rebbe connects it to the Parsha of the week that was in that time of the year in Yud Zayin Elul, and that week's Parsha was Parshas Ki Savai, and over there the Torah tells us that when we come to the land of Eretz Yisrael, we should take the Bikurim to Hashem, and then it says in the fourth portion of that parsha, it says that the mitzvah that we have a mitzvah of building a mizbeach to Hashem, and the pasuk says Uvanisa la Hashem lekecha. And on those 3 words, the Rebbe learns 3 things. Uvanisa means that when you're taking when you're doing, okay, first of all, the Rebbe is learning a lesson for what does it mean to come to Eretz Yisrael. In our avoda, we know that the Tzemach Tzedek taught us machda Eretz Yisrael, that our avoda is to transform Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael. So when a Yid comes to Eretz Yisrael, means that when you're doing the avodah of transforming Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael, you need to do Uvanisa LaHashem Lekecha, those 3 things. Uvanisa means that you need to use your avodah, you need to do it yourself. You have to realize that Hashem gave you the power, and He gave you your avodah in order that you have the ability to transform Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael. Uvanisa. And that Hashem is looking at you specifically and wants to see that you should build Eretz Yisrael, that you should build this project. And the next word is LaHashem, that when you're building it, it needs to be in the name of Hashem, it needs to be for the sake of Hashem, it needs to be not just any name of Hashem, but LaHavaya, which is the Shem Havaya, is the explicit name, the name of Hashem's essence. So not just in general for the sake of heaven, but it needs to be for the sake of Havaya. And that you're doing it with the power that Hashem gave you. Hashem is helping you do this. And then comes the next word of Eleikecha, which means that how are you accomplishing this project? Because Havaya is becoming Eleikecha, which means that your Eleikecha represents your Koyach and your Chayas, your power, your ability, and your energy. That the ability and the energy of the person himself, your Eleikecha, what is it really? It's Hashem, because Hashem connects with you and gives you your power. So the power that you're using to transform Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael is actually Hashem's power that's invested in you, and you need to build. And now we're going to go into Ois Gimel. V'yesh lo haisif hayra ba'avedas Hashem me'inyin b'niyas hamizbeach v'hakravas karbanos oilo shlamim. We can add, in taking a lesson in service of Hashem, from the building of the Mizbeach, and also from bringing the karbanos. There are two karbanos that the Rebbe speaks about here: the oila, the burnt offering, which is a carbon that goes totally to Hashem, and then there's the shlamim, the peace offering, which the owner of the carbon also eats, as well as the kohanim. So the Rebbe learns like this: Mizbeach. Makai mucha mahakriv by karbanos. The mizbeach is defined as the place that is ready, the place that is set to bring up karbanos. V'inyanei ba'avoda. What is the lesson in service of Hashem? Sheha'adam yakriv es chelbay v'damay la'Hashem. That a person must sacrifice his fat and his blood to Hashem. And as it's understood, it should be done with in the right way, in a healthy way, and in our chavadik way, in a breite. In Yiddish we say in a breite reifen. Harchava also means expansion, so it should be done in an expanded way. Dugmas carbon oilo shlamim. Now, when it comes to sacrificing your chelev and your dam, your fat and blood, it should be done in two styles, similar to the two karbanos, the carbon oila and the carbon shlamim. L'chol reish carbon oila. First of all, there is the burnt offering, which is shehi kula LaHashem, a carbon that goes completely to Hashem. What is that in service of Hashem? This in our service to Hashem, this refers to the beginning of the day, because the beginning of the day is the avodah of davening. Shehi kula Hashem, davening is completely to Hashem. Because we know that we have to daven before we eat and drink. And of course, davening is not just done before eating and drinking, but obviously it's also done before doing your mundane matters, living in the world, dealing with worldly matters, with society. Asakav binane ha'elam. Your dealings with the worldly matters. After that carbon, the carbon oila, then comes the carbon shlamim. Which we know that part of that carbon went to the owners of the carbon. This matter in service of Hashem is Shagambi Sukkov. That also with your dealings in your business and your business matters throughout the duration of the day, while you're dealing with mundane matters in society, when you're dealing with the world. Hanhaga ba'ifin shel shlamim shematilim shalom bein ha'adam hamakriv lahakadosh baruch hu. that you should practice, that you should behave yourself in a way of shlamim, in a way of a carbon shlamim, and we know that shlamim is also called that way, a peace offering, because it brings peace between the person who sacrifices it and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when you're dealing with your business matters and your mundane matters in the world, it should be done in a way that brings peace to the world and brings peace between you and God. Another concept in the carbon shlamim to learn from. There is so Rashi says in Vayikra Paragimel Pasuk Aleph, Rashi says sheyesh bahem shalom lemizbeach v'lakohanim v'labailim. The carbon shlamim is called a peace offering because it brings peace for three things: for the mizbeach, for the kohanim, and for the owner of the carbon. Hainu she'oisa shalom, which means that the carbon shlamim brings peace. Avas Yisrael, it brings love of the Jews. Bein haKohanim v'Yisrael, because it brings a love between the Kohanim and the Yisraelim. Because everyone gets a portion, everyone has a piece, a way to participate in this sacrifice. Which is similar to the Inyan of Hakel. So that's perfect for this year, as we know also that year Tavshin Mem Ches was a Hakel year, and this year Tavshin Pei Gimel is also a Hakel year. So this is similar to the Inyan of Hakel that Rebbe says. Shema Ached es Kol Yisrael Yachad b'Hakel Echad, because this carbon shlamim, it brings all the Yidden together into one gathering, into one Hakel. Uba'avoda, and in service, in our service of Hashem. So who's the kohen? HaKohen shehu memutza hamachaber bein hamakriv l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The kohen, who is the intermediary that connects the one who is sacrificing, the one who's bringing the carbon to Hashem. Who is the kohen? Who harav shenoisen lo yediyah ispatayra. This is referring to the teacher, the Rav or the Rebbe, that is giving the person knowledge in Torah. And strengthens the person, strengthens the Yid's connection to Judaism. The Hamakriv, who Yehudi Shaloimed Meharav. The one sacrificing, the one bringing the carbon, is the Yid who is learning from the teacher. Ushlamim oisim shalim beineihem. This carbon shlamim makes peace between them. And through doing these karbanos, we merit to also have the rest of the way the pasuk continues, that says v'achalta, you will eat, etc. So when it says you will eat, which it means that we will merit to have plenty of sustenance, mezaynai umezayn b'nei beisai hagashmi. We will have food and we will prosper physically, us and our families, and also in a way of that we will rejoice, we will have simcha. May it be Hashem's will that may it be Hashem's will that by speaking about all these things, it should come to actuality. It should come to poyel mamish, ad lepoyel mamish o ikri, until to the extent of the fundamental to the main poyel mamish, which is Beis hamikdosh Ashlishi, the third Beis hamikdosh, sheibana b'meheda b'yameinu mamish, which should be built and will be built speedily in our days mamish, ayidei Mashiach tzidkenu, through Mashiach tzidkenu b'geula ha'amitis v'ashleima, in the true and complete redemption. Chol inyan biyadus, and every matter in Yiddishkeit, Chol inyan b'Torah mitzvahs b'miyuchad, and specifically, and every inyan in Torah and mitzvah specifically, Chol inyan hakashur ba'avas Yisrael, and every inyan that is connected with avas Yisrael, ad la'ofen shel achdus Yisrael, to the extent of the unification of all Yidden. It hastens the true and complete redemption. And and even before that, in the last moments of exile, Mekabel Kol Yehudi, every Yid receives every Yid receives a good and a good year, a good and sweet year, and he's written and sealed for good, and the good that is clearly seen and is palpable and is revealed, and then it says here, basically, because this is Yud Zayin Elul, it's right before Rosh Hashanah. So the Rebbe is already wishing Ksima Tova. After this, the Rebbe told Mr. David Chase and the Rashag, the Rebbe's brother-in-law, that they should also say some words, that they should give a speech. And after they spoke, the Rebbe went to the place of the laying of the cornerstone, and the Rebbe took a shovel and dug into the ground. And then with the Rebbe's holy hands, he took the cornerstone and he put it down in the place where he dug, and he covered the cornerstone with earth. And then the Rebbe gave out to everyone who was present $1 in order to give that $1 to tzedakah. So what we have here in this Sicha is very interesting. Well, obviously, the reason why we're learning this Sicha is we're talking about expansion, but also mainly because in the end of the Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, in the footnotes, the Rebbe in the footnotes it says to look at this Sicha that the Rebbe spoke by the Even Apina. So we know that this Sicha is connected to the Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, and from what I could see here, there's a specific thing that sticks out to me, that this Sicha is very much connected to Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, because in the Kuntres, one of the things that the Rebbe specifically calls for, the call for action, is that the Rebbe says that every single Yid should participate physically and monetarily with Expanding 770. And in this Sicha, the Rebbe says it by bringing words of Torah, by saying, Uvanisa la Hashem Aleikecha, that when it comes to, the Torah teaches us that when a Yid comes to Eretz Yisrael, and in our avodah, that means when we transform Chutz La'aretz into Eretz Yisrael, Machda Eretz Yisrael. So the word Uvanisa means that Hashem is looking at you, at every single Yid, and Hashem is calling upon you and saying, I want you to participate in building this house for Hashem Aleikecha. I want you to participate in Expanding 770. And so it's directly connected to when the Rebbe calls for everybody to get involved. We each of us must take it personally. That when the Rebbe is calling for every Yid to get involved, the Rebbe is not just looking at the entirety at everyone, but he's looking at me personally, and he's telling me, I want you to get involved, and you have certain strengths, you have certain talents and abilities that the Eibishter gave you, and you are the one that needs to get involved to make this expansion happen. And then also that the Rebbe says here, what we learned today in Eis Gimel, that we learn about the Mizbeach, because back to this the Parsha Kisavai, where it speaks about that you should build a Beis hamikdosh, and in it you should have a Mizbeach where there should be karbanos, the carbon oila and the carbon shlamim. So the Rebbe once again is giving us the Rebbe is learning lessons in our avodah. So to connect it to to the actual Even Apina, that the Rebbe is speaking the Sicha at the groundbreaking of the expansion. So it's important to take lessons from what the Rebbe is spelling out over here. That the Rebbe says that we all need to be involved in carbon oila and carbon shlamim. So when it comes to expansion, when it comes to building an expansion, all of us need to make sure that our mornings are a carbon oila, that the morning belongs to Hashem completely. Before we do anything else, the first thing we do is we come and we daven. Where do we daven? We daven in a shul, and how much more so if we come to the main shul, like the Rebbe teaches in the Kuntres Beis Rabbeinu, that the main shul, where the entirety of the Shekhinah is present, is Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, 770. And and that is a very important part of building the Beis Hamikdash, because like we learned also in this Sicha, that whenever we come to build any project, we need to make sure that the foundation, at the beginning of it, is connected to the Holy of Holies. It needs to be connected to Hashem Himself, and without having that foundation in the morning of serving Hashem and davening the way a Yid is supposed to daven, then without having that, we're missing the whole foundation of our day. And so it's a very important part of the of everything else that's going to happen in our day, is to make sure that the morning is very much connected to Hashem, a korban oila. And then when we come out of davening and we come to the world and we deal with our businesses and we deal with our mundane matters, it should also be done in a way of a korban shlamim. So even though the shlamim is not just eaten on the mizbeach, it's not just consumed totally in fire, but rather the shlamim, everyone gets a piece to eat. So too when we leave shul, so you also have enjoyment of what you're doing, and there's benefit for you, but it needs to be done in a way that all of your business dealings are done in a way that it brings peace, that it's done in a way of Avos Yisrael, and it's done in a way of Achdus Yisrael, in a way of Hakel, and that way we will merit to prosper and to have proper sustenance and wealth and everything we need, and in a way that we will enjoy it, and it should be done in a way of simcha. So once again, to connect that to the actual expansion, is that if we want to build and we want to expand 770, we need to make sure that the way we're dealing in our mundane matters, that it should be done in a way of Avos Yisrael. It should be done not to hurt anyone and not to cheat anyone, chas v'shalom, but it should be done in a way where we're looking out for others, and we're working in a way of achdus. And this is, I think, specifically important to speak about when it comes to expansion, because as we see that this expansion was delayed for so many years. You know, this Sicha that was at the cornerstone, at the groundbreaking of expansion, was already over 34 years ago. This is in the year 1988, and now we're in 2023. So what could be the possible reasons for such a delay? And really, what I believe is that there's no real te'elis in dwelling on the delay and figuring out what held us back all this time. But one thing is for sure, that going forward, if we want to make sure that we don't end up in another delay, we don't end up continuing this procrastination of getting the job done. And it's important to look at the Rebbe's directives, the Rebbe's design of how expansion happens. And right over here in this Sicha, the Rebbe is specifying his instructions of how to start a project, and how a project is going to have the blessing of Hashem, and how Hashem will partner with the project. And that it's important that the project should be done in a way of uvanisa, that everyone needs to participate, every single yid, because when Hashem says uvanisa, Hashem is looking at every single yid and telling each specific yid, you have to do this, you have to participate, and that it should be done when the yid is participating. He should do it in a way that it's lahavaya. He's doing it not for his own agendas, not for his own purposes, but he's doing it for the sake of Hashem, because Hashem wants a Beis Hamikdash, and he's doing it because the Rebbe told us that he wants an expansion, and that it should be also in a way of La Hashem Aleikecha, that when we're involved in when we're participating in expansion, we should realize that the strengths that we have, that the abilities that we have, is Hashem's ability. Hashem himself put his abilities into us, and with that we have the power to do whatever it needs to do, whatever it takes to complete our mission and to build the Beis Hamikdash. And then as well, as the Rebbe is spelling out this, the korbanos, our avodah, that in order for us to have success with the expansion, is that we must have these two korbanos, that the beginning of our day needs to be founded on davening, and needs to be founded on a burnt offering, on giving over our morning completely to Hashem. And then, of course, the carbon shlomim, that after davening, we have to make sure that in our mundane business dealings, that we should make sure to do it in a way of Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael, and that is the way, and in a way of Hakel, and that is the way that we will have the expansion, as the Rebbe ends off in Eis Daled, that through behaving in this manner and through acting in this with these directives, the Rebbe's design of expansion, that's how we will be able to come to the Poel Mamish, and the Poel Mamish Ha'ikri, the main Poel Mamish, which is Beis Hamikdosh Hashlishi, that it will be built speedily through Mashiach Kenu, and that we will have all the brachas that we need and all the gashmias that we need, and it should be and it will be with simcha. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. That is the end of this Sicha, and Emirz Hashem, next week we will continue if we're able to. We'll notify everybody.
What's the plan for next week?
Also, that I can't.
Which Sicha?
1 second. Let me just pick up the volume.
Erstens, was machst du?
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Good to see you.
Let me just end the recording.
Yeah, end the recording.